So how do you navigate friendships that may be toxic or detrimental to your mental health?
Oh, that is interesting.
You got a hard one, yeah.
I gotta think about that one because I feel like I'm very lucky in that I haven't sort of had many toxic friendships. And personally, I feel like the word toxic, I don't know, I don't like the word toxic because I feel like people aren't, black and white, and some people, everyone has like good things about them and bad things about them. Like, yeah, I don't think it's good to necessarily label people as being toxic or non-toxic. But I suppose, I have had like maybe one friendship that I think wasn't serving me well, and I, sort of felt quite drained from interacting with them. I think, and eventually that friendship sort of just naturally like fizzled out without me sort of actively intervening. But I suppose in hindsight, I probably could have communicated a bit more. I think communication is really key in these sorts of situations. Maybe sort of having a one-on-one conversation with this person and getting them to tell you their perspective, because maybe it's a simple issue of your perspective's not aligning. There might be some misunderstanding between the two of you. So I think just like talking it through is a good first step, and then sort of based off that you can make your decisions whether to go ahead or leave, or maybe put some boundaries in between you and that friend. I think that's probably what I have to offer. Yeah.
I think with toxic friendships, sometimes you're just so close to the person you may not even realize that it may be toxic. And I feel like in these days we're so quick to label things as red flag or toxic or as someone who has experienced like a toxic friendship, unfortunately, and looking back at my time in high school, I could say it was toxic, because if you feel like you're giving more and more and receiving nothing, or you feel like you're not valued, you're in your friendship circle or with your friend, then maybe it's time to give some space to each other and like create those boundaries and open a line of communication for those boundaries. Because I remember with my friend at the time, I was like, I feel that my feelings aren't important to you, or what I'm saying isn't important to you. And sometimes she would reassure me, but then actions do speak louder than words. And there would be times where around other people she would put me down. That's not what friends do. Friends are supposed to kind of be your rock, and I feel like friends represent and do a lot of things in people's life. They're your family to an extent. They're also your community. They're your source of energy. Like, it's a lot of responsibility because you're gaining energy from them, and it can be really hard to sort of at times identify that, whether it is toxic or it is a red flag. But when you feel hurt or upset by a certain action, I think it's best to not let it linger and just talk, basic as it sounds, talk about it with them. And if you feel like you can't even talk about it with them, then you need to take a hard look at that friendship and maybe let it fizzle out. And I know it sounds like a really strong action, but if they are consistently making you feel less than, then that is not a friendship.
I think as well, like reminding yourself that like you are worth respect. Like and just reminding yourself of like, you deserve to be treated well. Like, you don't deserve to ever be made to feel less than, because you're so much more. And I think in a lot of relationships where someone is like toxic, they often like make you feel devalued, and then you start to go into this mindset like, maybe I do deserve to be treated this way. Maybe, you know, this is what I should expect, because this is as good as it's ever gonna get. And sometimes that makes people afraid as well of like, well, if I walk away, like, yes, this is kind of like a bad friendship, but if I walk away, I'm left with really like nothing, kind of thing. And I think often as well, reminding yourself like, you deserve better, you deserve to be treated with kindness, you deserve to be treated with respect and with love. And if you're not getting that, and if someone's making you feel really, really bad and making you feel like, you know, you deserve to be treated like shit, that's not okay. And being able to identify that, because I think a lot of times you get in like, I don't want to like categorize, but a lot of times with toxic relationships as well, like someone manipulates you to think a certain way of yourself, and then you're stuck there, and it's really hard to get out. So I think reminding yourself you deserve so much better makes it a lot easier to take a step back as well and say, you're not treating me with respect, you're making me feel really, really bad about myself, and that's not okay, because I deserve better. And I feel like reminding yourself of that makes it a lot easier as well to walk away if you feel like that is a necessary step you need to take.
And also I feel like with friendships like this, where you aren't able to be yourself and you aren't able to open up, it's really easy to think, to like go back to the thought process of, it's okay for me to be treated that way, I mean, this is the best it gets. And I feel like getting out of a friendship is as bad as any breakup, because you've invested your time, your effort, to an extent, find like your money and like your emotional self in that, and you're like, all of this investment, and this is what that's how I think, and this is what it got me. But then at the same time, it's, you must remind yourself that you deserve to be treated, as you were saying, to you with respect, and you should be understood, you should be able to open up, because if you can't, then what is that friend there for, essentially?
Exactly. And I think as well, people will tend to, instead of trying to, or like wanting to break up a relationship, they'll go, well, okay, I think, you know, Cecilia's probably acting this way because of A, B, and C, and then they'll reason out bad actions towards them. But I think at a certain point you have to stop doing that and say, no matter how, like, whatever it is they're going through, that anger or that sadness or whatever that is should not be taken out at the expense of you and your well-being and your dignity. So I think that as well, like, yes, other people can be going through stuff, but that doesn't mean it's okay for them to be treating you the way that they are as well.
But I also think that we're in such a like time that everything around you is changing, and you're changing as well. So there are going to be friendships and relationships where maybe 6 months ago you didn't gel together well, but now you do. Like, things change. It's okay if you want to revisit it in the future as well, but if it's not serving you at this point in time, it's okay to let go.
That's a really good pickup, I agree. And I mean this in a professional setting as well at times, but never end on bad terms with anybody, whether it be in your personal life or your professional life, because you never really know with life. Like, there have been times where I'll be like, oh, I'll never talk to this person again, and then lo and behold, they're actually like some of my really good friends, and I'm like, oh damn, okay. So you never know, and you should never fully close the door unless it's to an extent where you feel like, you know, you don't feel dignified, and you feel manipulated, and it's really unfortunately toxic. But